This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, and we're back with Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin, and we've got Dr. Schovanec, president of Texas Tech, on the line as well. Dr. Schovanec, how are you doing?
Good morning, Matt. How are you?
I think I'm doing well.
That's not the way
Nobody's told me different.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Schovanec, Dave King here, and I'm glad to have you out this morning. I know that I guess that your plate is kind of full, I'm guessing. A lot going on right now at Texas Tech.
There is, Dave, and that might be surprising to people, given that the campus is still fairly empty. But Summer 1 has started, Summer 1 session this week. The good news there is that it's an all-time record for enrollment. We're up about 12% over a year ago, and that's kind of surprising. It's all online, but next Summer 2, there will be a mixture of face-to-face and online. Today, I don't want to go on too long here because you may have some questions, but we will be announcing, we'll be issuing a press release today about Texas Tech's plans to more detail about the return to campus in the fall. It's called the Texas Tech Commitment. It addresses matters like academic instruction, sanitization, on-campus living, athletics. And so there's a website that's been prepared that has a lot of detail. And I think right now you just can't communicate enough. I think we will be issuing a statement about what mix of the classes will be face-to-face and online. And I think that's really important to parents and students right now.
Yeah, and actually there's been a lot of questions. One thing that we've seen on Twitter and some other places is that I guess parents have been signing their kids up for classes, and they've automatically been jumping over to online classes.
Yeah.
What's causing that?
There's some misinformation out there, Matt.
Uh-huh.
And that's why we need to get on top of this. Yesterday, I received the final report from the provost as to the mix of offerings. About a month and a half ago, instructions were given to colleges and departments to develop their schedule for the fall. We made a point that we wanted to have sufficient face-to-face, especially for freshmen and lower division courses. And so there's been some misinformation. I think what it is as this information was being collected and people were talking to one another, what was shared wasn't necessarily inaccurate, but it was an evolving situation. And so the provost sent me the final numbers yesterday. And if you take out courses that relate to individual study, research, the courses at the regional sites, so basically what you think of as your organized traditional undergraduate courses, just a bit over 36% will be fully online. And so we're talking about 63, 64% will be either completely face-to-face or hybrid. Now what that means is you might have face-to-face, say it's a Tuesday, Thursday class. You'll be in the classroom on Tuesday, but on Thursday there'll be an online lecture. We have to do that to control the occupancy in the rooms. But what was really important for us was that the lower division courses be face-to-face. And the Provost Gallion shared with me yesterday that only 20% of the 1,000 level courses, those are the freshman courses, will be online. And we're very pleased by that. If you actually count individual study and research courses, that online drops down to about 30%. But a lot of students aren't going to take those. So we tried to be as straightforward and honest as we could be in letting them know what they could expect. Now, it varies from program to program. But right now, it's a conservative statement to say 2/3 of the courses will have some degree of face-to-face instruction.
So let me ask you this. One of the things that it looked like was very worrisome for some of the parents and students that could be coming in was that the campus life wouldn't be there. You know, that freshman campus life that a lot of the students are looking for. Is Texas Tech going to have? Is it going to be different next year? And will there be that campus lifestyle that a lot of students are looking for?
The letter that goes to students today has a statement. There is simply no substitute for the on-campus collegiate experience, especially like the one we provide at Tech. So, Matt, we intend to make this as similar as it can be to what they would have experienced last spring. There's going to be differences in how we have to provide for sanitization, but the rec center is already open. That was one of the first units on campus to open, and I think that sort of speaks to the campus life. Greek life is going to proceed. As you heard from Athletic Director Holcutt, we're moving forward with athletics. The football players can start to return for voluntary workouts on the 15th. And so it's obviously going to be a bit different because we have to respect, the social distancing, and we have to make sure that we're addressing the concerns that parents would have. So, for instance, what do we do about face coverings? That's a sensitive issue. We're going to strongly encourage everyone to wear a face mask or the appropriate covering whenever possible, but there will be some environments where it's going to be difficult to achieve social distancing. And so there may be instances in which we have to require face masks.
Dr. Schovanec,
Yes.
a question. I was just thinking, you have some that are just going to be impossible to social distance, and one that comes to mind, of course, is the going band. By definition, the band is they're in close proximity with one another.
That's right, Dave. And I can't give you the specific plans as it relates to the Red Raider band, the going band. Those are the kind of issues. We haven't sorted out everything, but that would be an example. I guess the marching formations could be spread out a bit, but other than making some flippant comment, I haven't sat down with the director and worked out details like that. But so we still have things like that. I think there's many other cases like that when you're in the lab and you work in groups, so there are certain environments in where we will probably require a face mask. What you have to try to understand there is there are some teachers who don't want to show up in the classroom with students without a face mask. What do we do if they say, I'm not going to teach in that environment? We're talking about installing sort of plastic guards in certain classrooms, how to deal with some of the liability that's associated with these mandates. And as we reopen to phase 3 here in June, we've had some staff who said, I will not wear a face mask. They feel it compromises their health, their breathing issues. And so there's just a whole host of things that we don't have all the answers now. But I think the communication today and the website that's been prepared is detailed enough that it will give people a very good idea of what we'll do. And for instance, everybody who shows up is going to get a bag that's going to have a face mask, hand sanitizer, other materials to try to send a message about the importance of paying attention to these issues.
Okay.
We can do that on campus. But what are we going to do when they go across the street and go into restaurants and places like that?
All right. Well, Dr. Schovanec, we're going to have to take a quick break, but let me ask you one quick question before we do. We've got a text messenger, a pretty good question. Is Tech going to charge full tuition for online classes next semester?
Well, we're not doing that now. So this summer, we decided not to charge the online distance fee. And for summer 1 and summer 2, we did not charge the campus fees. Now, we haven't made a decision to do that in the fall. But here's the thing, Matt. I asked Noel Sloan, our CFO, on Friday, how much revenue have we lost, and what has been the cost as of last Friday since this began? $41 million.
Yeah, it's a big number.
And the state has proposed a 5% cut for the biennium. There's another $20 million. Now, those things have to enter into our thinking.
Right.
And I believe that it's incumbent upon us to offer a collegiate experience that students and parents wouldn't feel they're getting cheated by paying some of the traditional fees. And so at this point, tuition will be charged as usual. And Matt and Dave, I've made this point before. There's a misconception out there that teaching online is cheaper. I know people will not believe this, but understand that 60 to 75% of our cost is payroll, is employees. And it doesn't matter whether you're standing in front of a classroom or preparing that class for online, and it's difficult to ensure the quality you really need in large online classes. So when you're teaching history and pre-Reconstruction and you have 200 to 300 in the classroom, that is a more economical way to teach than online. And so there is a misconception that online is cheaper. It's not. And there have been many studies that have borne that out.
Okay, well, we are running out of time. We got to take a quick break here. This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We've got Dr. Schovanec, president of Texas Tech, on the phone, and we'll be right back with Dr. Schovanec. This is Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We've got Dr. Schovanec, president of Texas Tech. We want to go right back to him. And Dr. Schovanec,
Hey, Matt.
Uh-huh.
Would you let me pop in here with a real quickie?
Okay.
To Dr. Schovanec from Blaine Beal's office this morning, we're seeing a report that the United States Air Force has a new chief of staff, and he's a Red Raider. Congratulations to General Charles Q. Brown, the first African-American service chief in the history of the U.S. military. And I'll bet you we want to give him a big round of applause.
Dave, thank you for mentioning that. Yesterday, I received notes from people across the United States, presidents of other universities, who had no affiliation with Texas Tech, just to say that we should be very proud of that. And I think that's wonderful. I appreciate you mentioning that.
It's a great honor.
It is. It's great for Tech. It's great for the United States.
Okay. Dr. Schovanec, one of the questions that we had here was who's going to make the decision on how many people can be in, let's say, Jones Stadium when we're able to open back up? If the state says 75%, would Texas Tech maybe be more conservative at like 25% of people in the stadium, or is that something that you will follow the state guidelines?
Well, that's somewhat related to the question Dave asked about the going ban. How do we ensure some degree of social distancing that people would feel comfortable and safe? And I think ultimately there'll be a lot of personal decisions people have to make about coming back. It's my feeling that we're going to follow the state guidelines. For instance, as we went through the plans to reopen the classrooms, we told the departments and deans plan on 50%. CDC guidelines was more conservative than that. And so I suspect, and Kirby has a task force looking at all the matters as it relates to the game day. And the final decisions haven't been made here or probably anyplace else. But I suspect we will be aligned with the state guidelines. As you know, Governor Abbott issued a 25% capacity for professional sports this summer, and I'm sure that's going to change. This changed for restaurants. So, again, I know there's a frustration with people when you say, to quote a good friend of ours, you're planning to plan, but some of this is still very fluid, and the final decisions related to the game day experience have not been made.
All right. Well, Dr. Schovanec, I got another quick question for you. This was also sent in to me. Apparently, the University of Texas is going to stop doing classes in person after Thanksgiving. Is that something that Texas Tech's looking at as well?
No. We've discussed it extensively. And if you look at like West Virginia has made a similar announcement. They still plan to have like final exams and such administered online. And as we discussed this with colleges and departments, there was a lot of concern about how you manage that to make sure there's integrity in the system.
It's hard.
It's hard. And we're talking about 2 weeks roughly. We're very concerned about what's going to happen when students leave and come back, obviously.
Right.
But there's another issue. If you say you're not going to come back and you're going to be finished before at Thanksgiving, then you open up a whole range of issues related to compensation for services not received. Now,
Right.
that's not the only reason, but that is one thing you need to take into account. And a lot of those students they want to be there. They're not going to leave at Thanksgiving. So that is not in our plans right now.
All right. Well, Dr. Schovanec, thanks for coming on. We ran out of time. I apologize. Chad Hasty will be coming up next.